Good morning, everyone. I really wish I could be there with all of you today. Um, Over the past few years, I tried to take as many opportunities to come home to Henderson so I could spend some time with Nana and Poppop. Um, I'm one of those lucky ones that got to have both sets of grandparents and a few great grandparents for the majority of my life so far. I enjoyed coming home just to sit on Pop-Pop's couch while he and Nana watched the St. Louis Cardinals, Andy Griffith, or as he patiently let Nana switch back and forth between Wheel of Fortune and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. As I would sit there, inevitably, Pop-Pop would say, "Get up, boy, let's go on a drive." He wanted to get in the car and see the progress of the Spotsville Bridge construction, show me the great ravine at Audubon Park, or wanted to go out to Robbie's farm and walk around, sit in a turkey blind, or see if Will was home. In those car rides, I always drove too fast for him, and he always told me, "Don't use the blinker," because I'd wear it out. He wanted to see everything out the window, and that is how he lived his life. Lately, when I came home, I got to take him to the hospital for his blood transfusions. And let me tell you, everywhere that Pop-Pop went, one, people knew him, and two, he was the life of the party, especially when he went to get margaritas at Agave's on Monday nights. All the nurses loved when Pop-Pop and his energy came down the hall. His stroll was determined and his voice welcoming. In fact, one day, it was a nurse's birthday, and that nurse got the gift of Pop-Pop's off-key but loving happy birthday song that all of us hall kids come to expect on our birthdays. You know, Pop-Pop and I had one thing in common. We both go by our middle names. To me, he's just Pop-Pop, but his legal name is Doris, William Doris Hall. And anyone who goes by their middle name knows that life is full of correcting people by saying, "Actually, I go by." Just like if you mistakenly referred to a ship as a boat, he would correct you that a boat is small and a ship is big. And just like all of us middle name folk, Pop-Up had some of his own idiosyncrasies, like how he wore his socks inside out because he wanted the soft part next to his tender toes, or as he also cut out the elastic band at the top of his socks because it was always too tight. And you'll wonder where the Halls got their OCD. Pop-Pop was dad to a few, Tim, Susan, Robbie, and Julie, but was dad to many as well. He coached Little League baseball for years. In fact, when we were all up in Indianapolis for my dad's heart surgery last year, one of his former Little League boys came by and had lots of stories to tell about Coach Hall. Also, for about a year, he was dad to his niece and nephew when Nana's sister passed away. He was also a brother to his sitter, Geraldine. You see, when he was young, he couldn't pronounce sister. So to this day, we all call Geraldine sitter. Even to this day, Pop-Pop still took care of his younger sister, going over to make sure she was okay and check up on her. I'm sure she can tell you even more stories about her older brother, Pop-Pop. To others in the community, Pop-Pop was known as the clock repairman. As a kid, I remember sitting on the concrete floor in Pop-Pop's clock shop next to the garage on 8 Center Circle, playing with a box of spare clock parts. He would sit in his swivel chair with one eye monocle clipped to his glasses while he worked on a clock repair. Meanwhile, we played with the foot pedal machine. The shop smelled of clock cleaning chemicals and the buzz of a cleaning machine and sounds of multiple clocks ticking. Pop-Pop was so detail-oriented with his clocks that recently, when he purchased a new flat-screen TV, he noticed that the digital clock wasn't keeping time correctly. It was off by like a few seconds. So Pop-Pop went to the Best Buy and informed that their fancy TV couldn't keep time properly and he wanted a refund. I don't know if anyone kept track, but Poppop probably at one point had been to most houses in Henderson that had an old mechanical clock. He repaired the big clock on the corner of Main and 2nd Street at the old National Bank, and for a time had what Nana called dates to wind the clocks of ladies throughout town. He even went to Reverend Evil Keevil's house weekly to wind his clocks and give him a fresh shave. More recently, instead of repairing clocks, Poppop sat in his clock shop and picked out Nana's prized pecans all winter long. Poppop got his start with clocks when he returned from World War II. His first job was as a meter maid with the city. He went around to all the parking meters, collected money, and handed out tickets for illegally parked cars. In fact, to give you an idea of the type of person Poppop was, he once gave a parking ticket to the mayor of Henderson. Well, the mayor wasn't too happy and said, "Do you know who I am?" To which Poppop replied, "Yep, you're illegally parked." As a parking cop, Poppop learned the mechanics of a parking meter, which essentially is a clock. So from there, he started working on clocks. In addition to picking up clock repair after he came back from the war, he also picked up our grandmother, Nana, at the local Craver movie theater. He was at the theater on a date with another girl, but noticed Nana when she was working there. She didn't have a ride home, so even though he was on a date, he offered to take Nana home. Well, sly as he ever was, he took his date home first so he could take Nana home last. And that resulted in 71 years of marriage, 4 kids, 8 grandkids, and 9 great-grandchildren. Counting, that's one thing Poppop did too. As an usher and deacon at both IBT and Community Baptist, Poppop was the unofficial counter. At lunch after church, Nana would always ask, "How many were in church today?" He'd pull out a piece of paper from his breast pocket and let us all know the total. And recently, he counted his blood count, keeping track on a similar piece of paper he kept in his breast pocket. When we built this church that y'all are in today, Nana and Poppop decided to move next door. I guess you could say, that Poppop was the guardian dog of the church. He could look out his window and know who was in the parking lot, if lights were kept on, or if the parking lights were left on. On Sundays, he'd wake up early, walk over here, start coffee, make sure the heat or AC was operating correctly, and would be there to greet everyone as they came in. Poppop fixed clocks, but he always had time. He had all the time in the world when he was sitting or walking through the woods, turkey or quail hunting. He had the time for you if you just wanted to hang out or talk or drive. He also had time for you if you just happened to be the person he passed by in the hallway, at the hospital, or at Walmart. As I write this, I listen to the tick-tock of a cuckoo clock that Poppop gave me. The clock keeps ticking, just as Poppop's unconditional love inside all of our hearts. You know, one thing that Poppop was very particular about was what you said when you left the house or hung up a phone. He said, never say bye. Always say, see you later. Well, last year when he had the nurses in the Indianapolis ICU in stitches, he followed his own rule and said, see you around like a donut. So Poppop, see you around.